everyone, and welcome to our third CWC Youth Program of 2021. We're going to get started now. We're just going to start off with some introductions. Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Aditi. I'm one of the CWC Youth Ambassadors. I recently graduated from New York University, and I'm interested in mind-body medicine and mindfulness, and also ways that we can improve upon our wellness through this platform.
And hello again, everyone. My name is Kevin. I'm a third-year student at the University of Nevada in Reno. I'm a dual major in biology and nutritional science, so I'm very excited for today's webinar. I just really love educating others on the importance of wellness and especially nutritional practices. So today's program is going to be a lot of fun.
Hi, everyone. I'm Prachi. I'm the Community Engagement Manager for the youth program. I'm currently a senior at USC. I'm finishing up a degree in global health, and I hope to go to medical school in the future.
This is just a short disclaimer about our platform. We aim to give you guys educational resources, but don't want to establish a doctor-patient relationship. Okay, so this is our agenda for today. We have quite a packed event for you guys. We're going to start off with a Kahoot trivia led by a youth nonprofit called Clinity Health Organization. Followed by that, we'll have a nutritionist and dietitian, Erica Deshmukh, talk about some ways that we can improve and boost our immunity in nutritional sense. Later on, we'll have actually a nutritional demo with one of our youth ambassadors, Kevin, followed by Q&A section, and lastly, some leading tips about next events. And this is just some information about our platform as a whole. We are the Crack the Wellness Code. We are led by the ICC, India's Community Center, and we focus on both the Western and Eastern practices that really emphasize preventative care and try to help our members to find different ways of wellness, whether it be through nutrition, behavioral health, cardiovascular health, and different venues.
And this is just a list of projects and wellness activities that we like to spearhead. And if anyone would like to reach out to us to get involved, these are some of the things that we are working on. So, at the end of the session, you can always reach out and learn more. And then this is just a brief overview of our upcoming CWC youth events. They're always on the last Sunday of every month. So thank you all so much for being here today. Our next one is going to be on April, but as you can see, these are all the different topics that we will be covering throughout this year. So like we talked about, today's program is the third session out of 12. Today, we're going to be talking about nutrition and wellness. And first, we're going to get started off with Clinity HO, who's here, and they're going to be introducing themselves and going over an educational Kahoot. So without further ado, you can all introduce yourselves.
Thank you so much for having us today. We're so excited to be here this morning. So my name is Vaibhava Venkatesan, and I'm a junior at Mission San Jose High School. I co-founded Clinity HO because I'm really motivated to help others, regardless of the circumstance, and support them in leading a happier life.
Hi, my name is Sujit Reddy. I'm the chairperson of Clinity HO. I'm also a co-founder of this organization, and I have a passion for the medical field after going through multiple volunteer opportunities.
Hi, my name is Sharon Krishna. I am also a junior at Mission San Jose High School. I co-founded Clinity HO as well, and I did this because I wanted to also help the community and use my excess of volunteer work to try and help others.
You can all lead into your presentation now, so go ahead.
Once again, thank you so much for having us today. So just a little bit more about us. Yeah, so we were actually founded last year, and we're a nonprofit based in Fremont, California. We hope to assist the community through volunteering and the distribution of medical supplies. And while volunteering within hospitals, we noticed that there was an overflow of medical supplies. And through Clinity, we hope to distribute these medical supplies to underprivileged communities, as well as inspire volunteers within our communities.
We did multiple projects in the past. For one, we partnered with Lattice Health Systems and another clinic in the Bay Area called AFMC. We noticed that Lattice Health Systems had an excess in pulse oximeters, and we borrowed around 40 of them, and we donated them towards AFMC who was in the need of pulse oximeters. Some other projects that we have done was we've created 2 YouTube videos on how to use a pulse oximeter. We've done it in both English and Spanish. We've also provided information about COVID, such as the importance of social distancing and masks. And any projects that we do, we always consult with physicians that are located within the clinic. Another clinic that we partnered with recently was the Suitcase Clinic, and we provide material for them as well.
So as for our future projects, we plan to receive and distribute medical supplies and provide volunteer opportunities for some volunteers. We want to teach AED, CPR, and first aid skills to these volunteers as well. And we also want to spread awareness about medical careers and safety through our own webinars. So as we went over briefly, we're going to briefly go over eating a balanced diet, as well as have our Kahoot on nutrition. So for eating a balanced diet gives your body the nutrients it needs to function correctly. To get the nutrients, most of your calories should come from fruits, vegetables, grains, dairy, and protein foods. Now, the average person needs about 2,000 to 2,500 calories per day to maintain their current state, depending on if you're a man or a woman. And eating a balanced diet is the first step in supporting a healthy immune system. And yeah, now we're gonna quickly move on to our Kahoot.
So for this platform, feel free to use the website www.kahoot.it, or if you have the app, you can also just put in the game pin, and we'll just wait for a couple minutes until everyone gets on. We'll just give it another 30 seconds for everyone to sign on. You guys can go again and get started whenever you like.
So this question is actually a trick question. Although walnuts are rich in antioxidants, they do not increase inflammation. So okay, so once again, the keyword here is always. So while it can be a good thing sometimes, it's not always a good thing. For example, some athletes who pump blood into their cells to increase cell count, they run the risk of stroke. So it's not always a good thing. Yeah, so we briefly mentioned this in our presentation. For a man, the average amount is about 2,500, while for a woman, it's about 2,000. So yeah, for this question, the other foods are considered processed when breakfast cereal is only a whole food.
Right. So garlic does help lower cholesterol, but there is no backing on it defending against infection and diseases. So it was a bit of a trick question. So these foods can include grapefruits, oranges, and lemons. The recommended amount for men and women are 90 milligrams and 75 milligrams respectively. This can aid in recovering from the cold, but there are also some rumors on it affecting COVID-19, but it's not backed by science yet. Yeah, so the effects of caffeine usually lasts 4 to 6 hours. Yeah, so the general rule of thumb for most individuals is to drink 4 to 6 cups of water per day. However, it is recommended to drink around 2 to 3 cups per hour in situations where one is sweating heavily from either exercise or hot weather. So overall, red meats have more saturated fat than chicken, fish, and vegetable proteins like beans. Saturated and trans fat can raise your blood cholesterol and worsen heart disease.
According to the FDA, to be considered a whole grain, it should be intact, ground, cracked or flaked cereal grains that still have their endosperm or germ. Uh, Although saturated fats are not the best thing to consume, they shouldn't be avoided completely. About 10% of your calories should come from saturated fats. Yeah, fruits and vegetables contain important vitamins, minerals, and plant chemicals. They also contain fiber, and this helps against cancer. Red meats are generally healthy for most individuals. However, it's important to understand how they're treated, whether they're processed or artificial manufactured in any way. Um, uh, Vitamins C and D are essential for growth and the function of immune cells. And with these vitamins are zinc, iron, and other proteins. For example, vitamin D acts as a regulator for the immune system and slows down bone loss.
Yeah, good job to everyone who's participated, and well done, Susan.
These are our contacts for Clinic DHO, and thank you for listening to our presentation.
Okay, thank you all so much for hosting our Kahoot trivia. If you could stop sharing your screen, I'll introduce our next guest speaker for today. Okay, so for our event, we're focusing on healthy eating tips to boost your immunity. So we are going to be hosting a nutritionist and dietitian. Her name is Erica Deshmukh, and she'll be speaking with us about these types of techniques that we can use. So just some background information about Erica. She's a dietitian and certified diabetes educator and got her degree from San Jose State University. She's worked at the Palo Alto Medical Foundation, has led some great platforms and lifestyle change classes for her patients. And she's also very interested in mindfulness-based eating awareness and serves an instructor for those areas as well. So Erica, if you'd like to introduce yourself, you can go ahead and do that and then share your screen.
Hello, everybody. I'm Erica. It's really an honor to be here. I'm thrilled to be here with all of you. And I guess that's my introduction. I am going to speak for just a few minutes. I guess we, hopefully 15 or 20 minutes about, nutrition, and I just call it healthy and balanced eating. There's not a lot of research or particular foods that I would say that we know particularly boost immunity, but we know so many that help the microbiome in the gut, which is, there's so much more research. So many of you are saying you're going into the medical field, and I think you'll be seeing more and more research on that. So we're starting with a poll, which is, which of the following best describes your nutrition literacy? That means, what do you already know about nutrition? And if you'll play along, it would be awesome. So the first is, I'm confused about which foods are healthy or good for me. Another is, I'm fairly confident about healthy foods. I know how to prepare them. The other is, I know a lot, but applying it is so challenging. Or you might choose, I'm very confident in what to eat and how to eat. Or you might choose, who, me? I'm just a kid. I don't prepare my own food or pay much attention to this stuff. Just be honest, and hopefully you will play along at home. Thank you. Thank you for voting. Oh, good. Here we go. Okay, well, we have a real mix here. So, so all of you could see this. So the biggest two answers were, I'm very confident in what I eat and how to eat. And the other are, I know a lot, but applying is challenging. And, quite an even spread of, I don't really think about this, to I'm confused. So that's good to know who's here. So that's quite a mix. All right, well, I hope to, for those of you who already have strong knowledge, this should hopefully reiterate that, and we'll have a Q&A right after. So I'm going to kind of lickety-split go through a lot of this, but please, afterwards, any questions that you have, I'll be here for you. So the way you eat, I like to spend just a second on saying it's really important. Our bodies respond to routine. And so the sporadic eating schedules are not as good for our overall health. So if we can learn to be more routine, our bodies get in a rhythm, and digestion, etc., go much better. So one of the things is when we eat, and one of the ways you're doing it correctly, I would say, is if you do get those physiological symptoms, like you wake up in the morning and within 2 to 3 hours, your stomach is growling and you're hungry, or if you don't eat, you might get, kind of irritable or a headache. But if you can go all through the morning and you're eating kind of at odd times, and I know that can happen a lot because you're all students and you're staying up at odd hours, then you might be getting out of whack with your rhythm. So one thing that's really healthy and good for our health is eating in routine. So just planting a seed there. And there's no one right way to eat. I wish I could just say, here's the diet, but you're out there already, and you probably know there's keto and paleo, and some people are vegetarian and some people are non-vegetarian. Some people eat microbiotic. There's so many ways. The exciting thing is to eat a healthy diet. But there are some common threads. I also work at the South Asian Heart Center. I might know some of you from that. And we have a mantra, and it's take your meds every day. And that stands for meditation, exercise, diet, and sleep. And I just want to put a little plug in that I'm talking about diet and nutrition, but we don't live in a bubble. And so, of course, if we're not sleeping well, we make different choices. We don't crave broccoli at 2 in the morning, right? And if we're not exercising, we're more sedentary, that can affect how our immunity is and our overall health. And so these things all go together. And so we talk about them all together. That's all. I'm gonna move on, as I said, kind of. So this is the overall healthy eating pattern, kind of reiterating what we were saying earlier in the earlier presentation, which was beautiful. This is just recommendations. Include, right? Many of you already know this who are in the confident level, and those of you who are confused, it's really simple. Include a lot of veggies. You can never go wrong with veggies. You can eat as many as you want. And the goal is, I'll show you with the Harvard plate that the other group had, is to eat half your plate veggies. And I know that sounds like a lot, but if you can kind of start inching your way up there, or encourage your family to, you will be in every way reducing inflammation in your body, and that way increasing immunity and overall health. So increase veggies, increase fruits, and we're talking whole and season variety of fruits, and we're not talking fruit juice or dried fruit as much, though you can have a little bit of these things, but we're talking about fresh fruit. Whole grains, lean proteins such as fish or chicken are preferred, or plant-based, or of course, if you're vegetarian, any kind of legumes, nuts, seeds, and healthy fats. So the other group was talking about saturated fats aren't all bad, but the thing about fats that we'll get into just briefly is that nothing lives in a bubble. And so even if something we'll say is a good source of monounsaturated fat, it also will have some saturated fat. Even olive oil, you may know, is a really healthy fat. It's a good source of monounsaturated, but it will also have a little unsaturated, which is fine. So we say choose the healthier fats and eat less. Yeah, you guessed it. Eat less sugar. I know we crave it. Eat less sodium. I know we crave it. Restaurant food, just saying that most restaurant food will be very heavy in a lot of these things, and they're not looking out for our health. And refined grains, which means kind of the white flour. We were talking about the whole grain cereal before on the quiz, but suppose it's frosted, I don't know, what's a good, Fruity Pebbles, or what's a cereal you eat that's like very sugary? Those are refined grains, or white bread, like Wonder Bread. And saturated and trans fats are in the reduction. So you've already seen the healthy eating plate, and this is what it looks like. This is from Harvard, and they made it a little nicer, I think. And so you can look at this on your own after, but it's basically saying the same thing, but a little more specific, right? So eat a variety. Nobody knows, there's no science. I mean, food studies are impossible. We can't take people, you'll know, those of you who have studied some science, these things are done with control studies and the gold standard, but it's really, really difficult with food, because all you can do is ask people, well, what do you basically eat, and watch them over long periods of time. But it's very rare that we can take people and like put them in a laboratory and just give them exactly what they eat for years and years and see, well, how do they do, and which ones get sick, and what diseases happen. And that's why we just have basics. We look over large populations and we say, well, these people, in the Mediterranean diet, that works really well. And there's some people in Okinawa and Japan, they seem to do really well. And these are sort of the basics that we know. A lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables, the grains are whole grains, and the proteins we'll consider in that lean, and it won't be a lot of the bacon and red meat and cheese. And I know a lot of the things that a lot of people say, that's good stuff, but we say limit it. We don't say, that you have to avoid completely, but this is towards a life of being very, very healthy and having a strong immune system. The plate method, sorry for the distorted pictures, but you get the picture. It's kind of saying, if you can make half your plate vegetables, a quarter of it protein, and a quarter of it, what's the other one, whole grains, you'll be doing great. And they don't all have to look like this, so perfect. It might be that, you're eating a burrito, or you're eating pasta, and Kevin's going to do a great demo. I'm very excited, and I think you will be too. And you'll see, like, that can be your vision of half plate when we get into your Thai rolls. We'll go back there. So Michael Pollan, he's super interesting. He's a journalist, and he's a UC Berkeley, I think, professor at some point, but he does a lot about food and culture. And here's his rules. They're amazing rules. Look at these. He says, don't eat anything your great grandmother wouldn't recognize. That's a good rule. I mean, this is seriously the way we can learn. Don't eat anything with more than 5 ingredients. Look at those ingredients. If you can't pronounce them, if you don't know what's in them, it's a bunch of junk, right? Stay out of the middle of the supermarket. What does that mean? That means a lot of the good stuff is on the periphery, and a lot of the stuff in between is going to be the processed food. He says, don't eat anything that won't eventually rot. Well, that's interesting, right? And it's not what you eat, but how you eat. Enjoy meals with people you love. These are all really interesting points, that it's also the feeling and that we have when we're eating is important. And don't buy food where you buy gasoline. That one's interesting. So these are more pictures to just show you it's a variety. It's not that hard. It's not rocket science. Nutrition is as much an art as a science. It's so many ways. But when you look at this, I hope you see that's beautiful. And you might say, you know what? I don't like vegetables, or I only will eat carrots. Like my son, even though I'm a dietitian, he'll only eat carrots or broccoli sometimes. You know what? That's okay. That's a start. And eventually, sometimes it's that we have the knowledge from the outside and that brings the desire. And sometimes we crave these things. So some of you may say, I crave a lot of vegetables, and that's great. And some of you may say, I'm working towards that and I'm not that into them. But that the more you eat, that brings you towards a healthier body, a healthier immune system, and a more balanced diet is better. So color your plate, and I'm not talking about M&Ms, just make it colorful, and you will be guaranteeing your health in much better ways. So these are all just plate inspirations. Real quickly before we get into Calvin, I'm just showing you like a splash. One here is from our house at the bottom. It's idli and sambar with a lot of like just shredded vegetables, and the other is, you can see what they all are, but you can see that there are ways to look at that half plate vegetable that are more mixed up, and we're just having a lot of color. That's what you notice about these plates, I hope, is that they're very colorful. They're not just white and brown. If you're eating white and brown, throw in some color. And some of you aren't cooking so much, so that's why I have somebody, I think, in his dorm room right now who's going to do some demonstrations. So again, these are inspirational pictures, if you can see them. Some of them are like, hey, you're having Mexican food. Can you put in a few more vegetables? Can you decrease the cheese a little? And those foods are known to cause a little bit of inflammation in the body. So the cheese and the red meats, not so good to have a lot of those things. And if you love them, eat them, but see if you can start to reduce them and increase some of the other things. And that's a way that you can increase your health overall in so many ways. And so I don't have much time to go over this, but this is just to show you there's 3 macronutrients: carbohydrates. And what are our others? Do you all know them? I have a few people who can speak. What are my other 2 macronutrients? There's carbohydrates, and anybody know? They're very...
Is protein another one of them?
You got it, Aditi. Protein is another one. And I'll leave you in suspense for the other one, but maybe you can chat it if you know it. So there's carbohydrates and protein, and there's one more that maybe somebody's chatting. So these are the carbohydrates. Some people don't know or aren't able to recognize, well, what is that quarter of the plate? What carbohydrates are we talking about? And what you can see here is that it's as much kind of what we call junk food, the donuts and the sugar and the candy, as the things that we say, hey, these are good. So I don't want to label them necessarily good, bad. I don't want to get you into that's bad, never touch it, and this is good, and I'm bad if I don't have it. I mean, I know and your parents have been telling you, and everybody around you is saying which ones to eat. Eat more fruits, more vegetables, more whole grains. But if you recognize them, that's the key, and you start gravitating towards these things, and notice how it makes you feel. Most people will notice at some point in their lives that they feel better on these types of foods, because food is nourishment, right? And so these are whole intact grains, and you could have brown rice. You could also have basmati or other types of rice. You could have oats, quinoa, barley, whole grain, pasta, etc. Idli, dosa, all of these are whole grains. Starchy vegetables are also in the carbohydrate portion. So when we think of potatoes or peas or corn, if you were thinking of that plate, you would think of them in that carbohydrate section. And that's especially important if you have, say, I don't know anybody here, but maybe your parents, if you know somebody with pre-diabetes or diabetes, that becomes a very important point. Protein, that's what Aditi said. And when we look at it, on the right side, you'll see what we consider a healthier, more supportive of balance and health. And if you look on the left side, some of those things are known carcinogens. They're really bad. Some of like the hot dogs and the salami and the processed meats, they have nitrites in it and they're not good for our health. We want to really limit these things. The red meats have a lot of saturated fat, and over time, these can really cause issues in our system and cause a lot of inflammation, which is not good for the immune system and health overall. So our best choices, all of the plant-based stuff you see here, the beans, the legumes, the lentils. I mean, if you eat any bit of an Indian diet at home, which I know some of you do, and some of you are like, I've had enough of that, I'll have something else. That's good stuff. All right. All of the beans, legumes, tofu, eggs, and the lean, better proteins to invest in if you eat meat are chicken and fish, and nuts and seeds are great too. And the other macronutrient, some of you knew and probably were saying, was fat. And fat, you see, it comes in all forms. And so, of course, it's in our sweets and in our fried foods and that stuff. Most of us say, okay, I know that's not so good, but it's so tasty. And again, we're not saying don't touch this stuff ever, but just be aware that it has an effect on your body. So if you're really concerned about your immune function, health, balance, you will gravitate more and more in your life towards what you're seeing on the right. The good sources, the best, olive oil is good to cook in. Avocado is excellent, though I know Kevin told me he doesn't. He'll tell us why. Nuts, any kind of nuts, great. Flaxseed, chia seed, there's some called salba seed. And if you eat fish, salmon or mackerel or these fatty fish have omega-3 fatty acids, which are known to decrease inflammation and therefore also have some effect on our microbiome. So as we're getting to the end, I was going to give you a little microbiology lesson in fats, which is really interesting and gets into trans fats, but we don't have much time and I want to get into the demo. I want to say this one thing. There is a difference between a treat and a snack. And this is just a nice thing to think about. A lot of times when we say, I'm going to have a snack, we think of what I would call treat foods, right? And those are what? Chips, popcorn, sweets, cookies, things like that. We feel snacky. We want things like that. And so one great rule of thumb is that snacks don't need to be so glamorous. They can be simple foods. They're a bridge between meals. And if we're thinking about balance and health, we think of combining foods so that we're full. So it could be like the yogurt and raspberries. It could be a piece of toast with cheese. It could be peanut butter on a piece of toast. It could be a piece of fruit and a handful of nuts. It's not so interesting maybe as the donut, etc. But you could just ask yourself, is it a treat or a snack? And again, there's no insult. There's no problem that you're enjoying a treat, but just notice if all day you're saying, I'm having a treat, I'm having a treat, I'm having a treat, then you're treating a lot. And if you're concerned about health, that's in the realm of not supportive towards your health. Hey, I had a comic. This guy, I thought maybe you'd love this. He's saying, I feel like I finally figured out how to live life as an adult. Like eating, before I grab a cookie, I remind myself these aren't healthy. So I flip the box over, check out the serving size. What, just 2? Next, I look at the nutrition info and the ingredient list. These things are obesity incarnate. Now that these treats are laced with the bitter taste of guilt, I'm going to disregard everything I just read and gorge myself. Ha, ha, ha. But that's true, right? We have the knowledge and then we have choice. And, especially you're young, you may have some of these things. I wouldn't eat them with guilt. I'd eat them with joy, but I just start paying attention. The more interested you are in your health, you'll gravitate towards these anti-inflammatory type diets, which says the basis of them or eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, as we talked about, and then kind of go up there to the whole grains and the seafood or the legumes and the nuts and the seeds. And eventually you might see up there the herbs and the spices. You know, I wanted to end on a note of, well, what really is known to be anti-inflammatory and you know, help with lower risk for cardiovascular disease and cancer, etc. A lot of the herbs and spices that you find in your kitchen, turmeric is an amazing one. Ginger is great. And so you see some of these sage, tulsi, so many like this. Does this look like what you're gonna make for us? I don't know if we can spotlight Calvin, but he is gonna show us how to prepare these things from his dorm room, which I think is very exciting for all of us. So pay close attention and spotlight on Calvin if we can.
Of course. Thank you so much, Erica, for that introduction. So yes, like Erica had mentioned, I'm actually on campus in my dorm room right now. So it's kind of to prove a point. You know, there's lots of different recipes that you can do anywhere you want to with limited space. I'm not even in a kitchen right now. I'm literally on my desktop. So I have a very small blender. So first we're gonna get started off with a smoothie recipe, a really easy breakfast smoothie that I've done in the past, but with Erica's suggestions, I'm gonna add a little extra stuff to this. So this is actually a blender that I got from Walmart. It was only around $10. So it's kind of affordable, and it's also something that can squeeze into any small space. So first we're gonna get started by adding a berry blend, a frozen berry blend. So the serving size for this is around 1 cup, but I'm just, I always eyeball it. So let's get some fruit in there. So the key thing that Erica and I kind of discussed was that it's important to get lots of different colors into your meals. So colors, the next demo is actually gonna have a lot more colors, but to get started, we have some berries. So we have strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, and blackberries in here. So I'd say that's around 1 cup. Next, I'm gonna add 1 banana. And these are really easy for me to get. I just grab them from my dining hall whenever I'm there eating a meal. You just grab it. And then to add a little bit of the fiber and healthy fats that Erica had mentioned, I'm gonna add a few spoons of this seed mix. So here we have flax seeds, we have, what else is in here? We have chia seeds, flax seeds, and a little bit of hulled hemp seeds. So we're gonna add 2 spoons, or around 3 spoons of this. This is a teaspoon, so, oh wait, yeah, that's 1 tablespoon. So we added that, and to make it a little easier to blend, I'm going to add a little bit of almond milk. I think that's good. So now I'm gonna blend this with my thing on mute so that I can spare everyone the noise. So just a second.
Okay, well, Calvin is blending. I want to say this is so inspirational. Is anybody here inspired? I mean, here he is in his dorm room, and this is so making it look so easy. Thumbs up if you're inspired. We can do this, right? All right, let's see.
And perfect. I didn't hear anything that Erica just said because this was going off, but here we have a really quick and easy smoothie. And if you want to vary the texture a little bit, you want to make it more cold, or you want to make it a little bit more thick, a great recommendation is freezing your banana in a Ziploc bag. This is a great way to prevent them from getting too brown so you can't use it. You can only use it for something like bread. What I like to do is if I notice it getting spots, you just chop it up, put it in a Ziploc bag, and you put it in the freezer. You can eat it whenever you need to and add it to smoothies. And there's a really great fake ice cream that you can make with just frozen bananas. So this is something that I would typically eat for breakfast or something like that. So it's really easy to make. And another tip is to put everything in the blender, let's say at nighttime, right before you go to bed. And as soon as you wake up, you take it out of the fridge and put it on the blender, and you can grab it and run. So there was many lectures where I used to just walk into class with one of these. So the next demo that I'm going to do is a very simple Vietnamese-inspired spring roll. So I'm going to be using a variety of vegetables here. So you can really add anything you'd like to these rolls. So here I have some, just going around in a circle, I have some mung bean sprouts. So these come in these big plastic bags. Next, I have carrots. I have red bell pepper. I have purple onion. I have green bell pepper. I have some cucumbers, and I have a whole bunch of green onions. Green onions are one of my favorite foods, so I usually have like 2 bunches just always in my fridge. You can add it to ramen, you can add it to literally anything, and it's just amazing. And I have some cherry tomatoes. I don't know if I'm going to add cherry tomatoes to the rolls today, but you know, it just goes to show you can really add anything you'd like to these rolls. So
I asked Calvin to add avocado, but
yes, avocado is a really great form of healthy fat, just like Erica mentioned, but I'm allergic to avocado, which really sucks living in California and being vegetarian, because usually avocado is the premium thing that people put in those like the vegetarian options. So it's a little unfortunate. So the next thing that I'm going to be prepping is the rice paper. So they come in packets like these. These are very thin rice papers. And if you notice, there's very little ingredients in them. It's just rice flour, tapioca flour, salt, and water that goes into them. So the way that you prepare these, so this is an unopened package. I have an open package over here. I'm going to add some water to my plate. So just a little bit of water. And this is to hydrate the rice paper. So this is going to be a little tricky with the minimal space that I have, but it's just so that everyone can see it easy. So I have rice paper in another container here. I'm going to grab a sheet. And this is one of my favorite things to do because rice paper is actually really, really affordable. Oh, these are all falling apart. Never mind. I guess I will be using the pack that I bought.
oh wait, I have to say something. That some people are seeing only you, but you have to pin. I did it by how do you do it? How do you pin the food? Because I have it, but they're looking at you rather than the food.
I think they are looking at just the food and not me. So it says that we can only see the pinned rectangle of, so they can't see my face, which is, it's fine.
Oh, that's okay. I can see. Yeah, you want to see the food, not his face.
Yeah, so I just quickly opened this rice paper package. So if you see, they're around, I'm not sure how big this is, but you know, it's like around the size of my hand. So the key to this is not letting it sit in the water for too long. So I'm just gonna slide it underneath the water. And since my plate isn't big enough, I'm just gonna spread out the water a little bit. But count to 10 in your head when you're doing this, because if you leave it for longer than that, it'll tear easily. So I'm gonna remove the blender from here. I'm gonna step off. So now that it's been around 10 seconds, I'm going to pull I'm just going to make sure all sides of the rice paper are wet. It's important to get it just hydrated enough. So we're going to push this up to the side and I'm going to put it on this cutting board / placemat. So now that it's on our surface, the first thing I like to add is some greens. So you can add literally any kind of lettuce, any kind of greens that are available to you. And in regards to sourcing this, I actually grabbed most of these ingredients from my dining hall on campus. So for everyone that's going to go to college soon or is in college right now, you know, you can grab ingredients from any kind of resource. It doesn't matter where it comes from. And people like to add a variety of fillings inside here. Typically, you can add seafood like shrimp, but since I'm vegetarian, sometimes I'd like to add sauteed or fried tofu. So I started off with a bed of just like the greens, and you can see this a little better. So I started off with just a bed of greens, and then I'm gonna slowly add the rainbow of vegetables that I had prepared before this. Carrots are the hardest things for me to cut. I'm just gonna put that out there. Carrots are the most difficult thing for me to cut. Next thing, just to get a little bit of that color, I'm going to add these purple or red onions. I know that this might be a little too intense for some people, but I love red onions. I love onion flavor. So after the onions, I'm adding a little bit of the cucumber. So we got a lot of those colors on there. And just for that added bit of flavor, I am adding some green onions. All right. So now it's the fun / tricky part. So we're going to fold this up. I'm going to attempt to fold this up. So first, I like to tuck in the sides just a little bit, almost like wrapping a burrito. So tuck in the sides. Grab this end of the rice paper here. Don't put everything centered on the plate or wrap it over most of your vegetables. See how it caught most of it? Most of it, of course. And then we're just gonna roll it as tightly as we can. And jump ship a little bit, but there we go. So this is an example of a spring roll that you can do. So a really great, tore just a little bit, but that's the importance of not soaking it for too long. So we're just going to pretend like that didn't happen. So here we go. So this is our rice paper roll rolled up completely. And you can eat this by itself. There's not a lot of flavor. There's not any like dressing or anything, but basically it's a salad wrapped up in rice paper. But I have a really delicious recipe for a sauce that I love to do. So I'm a big fan of peanut butter. I'm almost done. Yes, I'm a good fan of peanut butter. So I have this measuring cup here. And I'm not sure if everyone is aware of this, but there is a powdered peanut butter available, which is just dehydrated peanuts. They'll take peanuts and they'll like finely ground them. And this is extremely fine peanut butter powder. So I have around 1/4 of a cup of peanut butter powder here. I'm going to add it in here. And this is a healthier alternative to peanut butter because it contains less fat because you're just eating dehydrated peanuts. If you're unaware, usually peanuts have a lot of oil in them, and especially if you want them to spread smoothly on toast, they'll add a lot of vegetable oils and different things in them to make them really creamy.
Sometimes they even add sugar to that.
Exactly. I'm using this powdered peanut butter alternative. You can get, this is available almost everywhere. So the ingredients in this one are just roasted peanuts that have been dried, and they add a little bit of sea salt and sugar, just like Eric had mentioned. But this is an alternative to typical peanut butter. So I'm going to add some water to this. And this is the beauty of this peanut butter. You can make it as thick or as thin as you need it to be. So I'm going to be adding just a little bit more water to get our consistency going. And then I will be using this spoon to just stir it up. So now that we have our makeshift, our dehydrated, ready to make peanut butter. So if you've seen, it's kind of coming together a little bit smoother as you add the water to it. So we're trying to make a peanut butter sauce. So instead of, adding a whole heaping tablespoon of peanut butter and adding water to dilute it out, here we have the luxury of controlling the consistency ourselves. So now that the peanut butter is in like a saucy way, I'm going to add sriracha. So, or any kind of hot sauce. I like to add a little bit more to it just to get that kick. And next thing I'm going to add is soy sauce. So, again, it's all about resourcing and finding materials wherever you can. So whenever there's a free soy sauce packet, I grab it instead of buying a whole bottle myself. So right now I'm going to cut open this soy sauce packet and put that in there as well.
I'm loving the dorm editions, the wisdom from dorms.
Exactly. And this isn't necessarily wisdom. This is just how I live my life. So, and to add a little bit more flavor, this is completely optional. I love adding just a little bit of sesame oil. This is completely for flavor. I love the flavor of just Japanese toasted sesame oil. So I'm just going to add a few drops of that. And this is, again, completely optional. A couple of other things I like to add, you can add a little bit of lime to your peanut sauce. You can add all sorts of different things. Some people like to add a little bit of honey for sweetness. That's completely up to you. But now that we've mixed that up, we have a delicious peanut butter sauce for our vegetable spring rolls.
Wow.
So I'm going to spare you all the time of making all of them, but the best.
And you now have breakfast, Kevin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And you just dip it in and you enjoy. So
That's incredible. Now, this is great. This is the highlight and such a good demonstration of how to get that rainbow of colors. I bet everybody's wondering if you have like TikTok videos or YouTube channels.
If you'd love to watch any more of these videos, I produce them on a pretty sporadic basis, but whenever it's up there, you can enjoy them. So, yes.
Thank you so much. I think that was such an interactive demo. I wish I had this when I was in college. And I think since it's already close to time, we can maybe do 1 or 2 questions for Q&A just to get that out and then end with some last minute comments from Prachi. So we have one question. And that being for Erica, you mentioned about finding the motivation to cook these healthy recipes and eat more healthy in general. And I know a lot of people mentioned that in the poll at the beginning. Do you have any tips on people of how they can really start to get the motivation, even though they have all of this information at hand? What are some quick steps they can take in the first couple?
It's a great question. It's so individual. Like I'm thinking about Kevin just did, and I'm wondering, like, was that always your interest, or did you develop that as you went to school? Were you just like that when you were 12? I mean, people are very individual. I'm just curious before I answer it.
Oh, of course. So I think my both of my parents are really into cooking. My dad especially, and that was just always something. He was someone who, if he liked a food back home when he was in India when he was growing up, he would do everything he could to remake it at home. If he went out and ate something, he would try to do it. So that that kind of lens of enjoying cooking and those culinary like interests, I think those all stem from my parents and especially my dad who loves to just research and develop different recipes. Perfecting it is his biggest thing. So I think I really started doing a lot of this cooking towards like the end of high school, where if it was a break I'd be like, oh, I can bake something. It all started with baking. I started baking biscuits and cookies and cakes, but then it kind of branched off into other things. And when I discovered nutrition in college, I was like, you know, this is a great way to blend the information that I'm learning in school and also all the interest that I had for cooking at home.
Yeah. So, and you see Kevin lights up and you can see the passion and it's incredible. And some people are like, gosh, that's neat, but I just don't feel that and I'm not motivated. And then you need friends like Kevin, or you start slowly and start where you are and you just recognize like, wow, I'm staying up, it's 2 a.m, I'm eating all these processed foods. And I think, you know, some of the tips is start reading the labels and start picking sort of the better choices of, you know, the ones that you understand the ingredients in. These are starts, right? Okay, maybe you're just living on frozen foods right now or living on the dorm food, but you might just think, okay, if I just add in 1 or 2 more colors here, I reduce some of the other things, it's a start. I would start small and start with your passion and you know, if you can, get a circle of friends that's also passionate about health, because we're all gonna only grow older, and you see your parents are aging, your grandparents. I mean, to be able to do that in a way where you're healthy, it's worth it. And so the earlier you can start, the better. But I wouldn't guilt yourself, and I would just do it with a lot of kindness and just notice and slowly get on that path a little. Is that helpful?
Yeah, I think that was a great answer. Thank you. Takeaway messages that you want to give to the youth members here?
Well, takeaway message, you know, you're at the beginning of an exciting time, all of you, in a really strange time, right? I mean, this is the weirdest time. Nobody knows how to deal with these COVID times. So I guess my biggest takeaway is is to maybe notice how you feel inside and outside. Notice your mood, notice how you feel in your body when you're exercising, when you're eating certain foods, as opposed to when you're eating other foods, you know, that you know we're kind of putting on the list of like the more sweets. And even if you're drawn to those things, just continue to notice, and the more we notice those things and find value, the more we find time to change. So it's a, you know, I just wish you all the best, and any way I can be of support, you know, you can share my email or anything. But I just wish you all a healthy, healthy life, and that all your, you know, wishes and dreams come true. And you know, this is the basis of it, is all of this healthy eating. So, and maybe my last takeaway is, you know, we hear our parents, you know, and people around us constantly saying like, eat the, you know, kind of forcing the foods that we don't want. And there's some point where you shift that as you become a later teenager into an adult, and you start taking ownership, and you realize, like, get their voices out of your head saying you should eat this is good for you, and you're like, I'm not going to eat that, I'm going to eat cake all day, to realizing that food, to getting that desire. Once you get the desire yourself, you'll have that light, like if you don't already have it, like Kevin, where you're just like, yes, I'm going to make that smoothie because it feels good. And so, you know, work slowly towards that if you don't already have it, and own it, because you own your health.
Thank
That's
you.
my takeaway. How's that?
That was great. That was very well said. Thank you so much.